The air in the dimly lit dining room of a suburban Chicago home was thick with tension. Emily Harper, a 28-year-old woman with a fierce spirit and a laptop full of dreams, sat across from her parents at the oak table that had witnessed countless family dinners. This was supposed to be a rare visit home, a chance to reconnect after months of building her empire in the fast-paced world of tech and real estate. But the warmth of nostalgia never stood a chance against the storm brewing in her parents' eyes. "You never finished college, Emily," her father, Robert, bellowed, his voice cracking as veins pulsed at his temples. He jabbed a finger toward the front door, his face twisted with disgust. "You're nothing but a lowlife, dragging this family's name through the mud." Her mother, Diane, stood behind him, arms crossed, her lips pursed in silent agreement. "You sit in coffee shops, pretending to be some big-shot entrepreneur," Diane sneered. "You're a fraud, and you'll come crawling back when it all falls apart." The words hit like a freight train, each syllable a shard of glass slicing through Emily's resolve. She looked at their smug faces, at the living room she'd once helped repaint during a summer break, and felt a strange clarity settle over her. Not anger, not pain, just a quiet certainty. She rose from her chair, tucked it neatly under the table, and grabbed her purse and keys. One word left her lips. Calm and deliberate. "Fine." Their laughter echoed as she walked out the door, a mocking chorus that followed her into the cool Illinois night. They thought they'd broken her, that she was slinking away in shame. The uneducated trash they'd branded her. But what they didn't know was that the fraud they mocked had just closed a $7.8 million deal for a tech platform she'd co-founded. They didn't know that the girl they dismissed held majority shares in a fintech startup valued at over $200 million. And they certainly didn't know that she wasn't retreating to a life of failure but to a sleek penthouse overlooking Miami Beach, where the ocean's whispers drowned out the noise of their disdain. Emily slid into her car, the engine humming softly as she pulled away from the house that no longer felt like home. No tears fell, no arguments lingered in her mind. She didn't need to scream her successes or prove her worth to people who'd already written her off. She was free from their expectations, their shame, their narrow definition of success. As the Chicago skyline faded in her rearview mirror, she knew she was driving toward a life they couldn't even dream of. 3 weeks later, her phone buzzed relentlessly, missed calls from unknown numbers, voicemails piling up, texts flooding in, all from her mother, Diane, the same woman who'd called her a mistake who'd never amount to anything. The messages started with a saccharine, "Emily, honey, we need to talk," and ended with a desperate, "Please. It's urgent. Call us back." Emily didn't respond. She was too busy sipping espresso on the balcony of her Miami penthouse, the morning sun glinting off the Atlantic as her personal chef prepared breakfast. Too busy reviewing a third offer from a venture capital firm eager to invest in her latest app, a financial tool revolutionizing small business lending. Then came the unannounced visit. Emily was stepping out of a yoga studio, her mind clear and her body light, when her building's security desk called. "Ms. Harper, there's an older couple here claiming to be your parents." She paused, a faint smile curling her lips. "Tell them I'm unavailable," she said coolly, "and remind them this building doesn't allow unapproved guests." Later, she reviewed the security footage, her father pacing like a caged animal, her mother dabbing at crocodile tears. They looked lost, out of place in the sleek lobby of the world Emily had built, a world they'd never believed she could create. The truth unraveled soon enough. 3 weeks after they'd thrown her out, Robert and Diane Harper were drowning in financial ruin. Their bank accounts were frozen. Their suburban home teetered on the edge of foreclosure. And their foolproof retirement fund had been exposed as a Ponzi scheme. Suddenly, the trash they'd kicked to the curb was their only lifeline. But Emily didn't open her door to just anyone knocking, especially not to those who'd slammed it in her face. She wasn't cruel, but she was clear. She'd learned the hard way that love isn't owed to those who offer only contempt. While her parents begged, she continued building, negotiating deals with Silicon Valley investors, acquiring a second property in Key West, and mentoring a team of coders who called her the quiet billionaire in sneakers. Her life was a symphony of peace. Each note played on her terms. In a penthouse that echoed with the sound of her own victories. But the calls didn't stop. 16 missed calls by Sunday. All from her mother. Then a text from her father. "We're struggling. Emily. Just a small loan to get us through." She read it once. Then again. And typed 3 words in reply. "Thought I was trash." Sent. Delivered. Read. No response. The silence that followed was louder than their insults ever were. A silence that spoke of their realization. Too late. That they'd misjudged the daughter they'd discarded. The Miami sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over Emily Harper's penthouse balcony. At 28, she was a force of nature. Her life a tapestry of ambition woven from the threads of rejection. But the calls kept coming, voicemails, texts, even a handwritten letter from her mother, Diane, pleading for a lifeline. Emily's phone buzzed again, this time with a message from her older sister, Lauren, who hadn't spoken to her since mocking her dreams over Thanksgiving dinner. "Emily, they're falling apart. Dad's had panic attacks. Mom's not eating. Just help them, please." Emily set the phone down. Her gaze fixed on the ocean. She wasn't cold, but she was resolute. Forgiveness was hers to give. Access was not. 3 weeks had passed since her parents, Robert and Diane Harper, had thrown her out of their Chicago home, branding her a lowlife for dropping out of college and chasing a career in tech and real estate. They'd laughed as she walked away, unaware that the fraud they scorned was a multimillionaire, the architect of a fintech startup valued at over $200 million. Now, their world was crumbling, bank accounts frozen, home on the brink of foreclosure, their retirement fund exposed as a Ponzi scheme. Suddenly, the daughter they'd discarded was their only hope. But Emily had learned a hard truth. Those who slam doors don't get to knock when they're desperate. She'd received a dozen voicemails from her mother, each one more frantic than the last. "Emily, honey, we need you." Diane's voice cracked through the speaker. Then came her father's text. "We're struggling. Just a small loan." Emily's response was swift and surgical. "Thought I was trash." The silence that followed was deafening. A testament to the boundary she'd drawn with unyielding clarity. When their financial advisor contacted her lawyer, asking if she'd cover their delinquent property taxes, Emily's reply was ice cold. "Send them my rates. Business only." Her lawyer chuckled, then paused, realizing she wasn't joking. This wasn't a family matter anymore, it was a transaction. And Emily Harper didn't offer discounts to those who devalued her. Even her aunt, Susan, tried to mediate. "They're old school, Emily. They didn't mean it," she said, her voice soft over the phone. But Emily remembered every word. Her father's, "Get out." Her mother's, "You're a fraud." She recalled the family meeting they'd held without her, whispering to relatives that she was wasting her life on some scam website. That scam was a financial algorithm now powering a major credit union across the Southeast. "I've forgiven them," Emily told her aunt, "but I'm not responsible for them." The line was drawn, not in anger, but in self-respect. Then came the letter, delivered in a padded envelope with no return address. Her mother's handwriting, curvy and deliberate, filled the page. "Emily, we made mistakes. We were scared. You used to need us. We weren't ready to need you. Can't we start over?" At the bottom, a single line. "We'd love to see your penthouse." Emily folded the letter and fed it to the shredder. They didn't want her, they wanted proximity to her success. A tour of the empire they'd never believed she could build. She wasn't their daughter anymore, she was a trophy they'd once thrown away. Amid the noise of their pleas, Emily's star was rising. A major business magazine, Fortune's Edge, published a cover story that shook the industry. From college dropout to fintech titan, Emily Harper's $45 million empire. The article didn't sensationalize her journey, it laid bare the facts. A young woman, ridiculed for her unconventional path, had built a portfolio of tech ventures, real estate, and trademarks without a degree or her family's blessing. The spread featured a photo of Emily on her penthouse balcony, barefoot in linen pants, holding a coffee mug emblazoned with self-funded. Her smile was quiet but unshakable, a beacon of resilience. The story went viral. Within hours, her inbox overflowed with messages from old classmates, former bosses, even ex-boyfriends claiming they'd always believed in her. Her cousin forwarded a screenshot of her parents' group chat. Diane wrote, "She's humiliating us." Robert replied, "She's doing this for attention." Not one word of pride. Not one hint of regret. Emily didn't flinch. She didn't need their validation. She'd validated herself long ago. In boardrooms and bank accounts. In the piece of a life built on her terms. That Sunday, Emily hosted a dinner for 10 at her penthouse. Not family, but allies. Investors who'd bet on her when others scoffed. Friends who'd stayed when doors slammed. They toasted to resilience. To outgrowing the cages others built. Over dessert, someone asked, "Would you ever forgive them?" Emily paused, swirling her wine. "I already have," she said. "But forgiveness doesn't mean a key to my life." The table nodded, understanding the weight of her words. She'd released the pain but locked the gate. Days later, another letter arrived from her parents. No theatrics this time, just a plea. "We see now we were wrong. If there's ever a place for us, we'd be grateful." Emily sat with it, the paper heavy in her hands. Once, she'd have crumbled, desperate to be chosen, but that girl was gone. Replaced by a woman who wore peace like armor. She drafted a response, not to mend but to close. "Dear Robert and Diane, you taught me what it means to be unwanted. And in doing so, you showed me how to build something no one could take. I forgive you, but that doesn't include a seat at my table. You tore out every page where we could have been family. I wish you healing, but from the distance you created." Emily. She hit send. No tears. No hesitation. Closure wasn't their apology, it was her choice to walk away. 6 months later, the calls had stopped. No more letters. No more voicemails. Just silence. The kind that sings when you've outgrown conditional love. Emily had launched 2 new companies. Invested in 5 women-led startups. And founded a scholarship for girls like her, brilliant. Overlooked. Uninvited. Her Key West property was complete. A minimalist retreat where she hosted retreats for young entrepreneurs. Her team called her the sneaker billionaire. But she preferred free. The media frenzy hadn't slowed. Forbes named her to their 40 under 40 list. And a documentary crew pitched a film about her rise. Emily agreed. On one condition. Tell the truth. Not the drama. She didn't want a sob story. She wanted a blueprint for others to follow. Her parents saw it all. Their social circle buzzing with her name. But they stayed silent, their pride too heavy to carry an apology. People asked if she regretted cutting them off. If she felt lonely. Emily's answer was always the same. Loneliness is living where your voice doesn't matter. Peace is waking up in a home you built. Where every corner says, "You did this." She didn't regret leaving. Her parents thought they were breaking her when they threw her out. They didn't know they were setting her free. One evening, as she stood on her balcony, the ocean whispering below, Emily got a final text from a blocked number. "We saw the Forbes list. Can we visit?" She didn't reply. They didn't want her. They wanted the glow of her success. And Emily Harper had no room for those who'd laughed while she built her throne.